Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the Millennial Mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, my beautiful friends and loyal listeners. It's always a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you so much for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly does make it worthwhile. Please make sure to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And remember that we're now live on our YouTube channel Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. All episodes of A Moment of Zen are now available on our YouTube channel. We have such a great show lined up for you today in our Millennial Mom segment brought to us by Hi There. We are featuring Nikki Giavasis. She's an American actress, entrepreneur, author, and mega influencer. Today, we are chatting relationships and the red flags that you need to know to spot a narcissist. That's right. Signs that you're dating a narcissist and how to get out. That's what she and I will be talking about. In the PolitcGal segment brought to us by Revere Securities, we are featuring Kash Patel. Kash served as the former chief of staff to acting Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller under President Donald Trump. He joins me today to help me make sense of the Mar-a-Lago fiasco and will the DOJ's fishing expedition into Donald Trump really go anywhere? In our influencer segment brought to us by ogpaid.com, today we are featuring Buck Sexton, a widely popular radio and television talk show host and author and conservative political commentator right here on 710 WOR. He is the co-host with Clay Travis of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, which is our nationally syndicated talk radio show. And you can listen to them live Monday through Friday right here from 12 to 3 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. Today, we're chatting about the Inflation Reduction Act and what it really aims to accomplish. Is this another fancy bill designed to manipulate the American people? Probably. We're going to get Buck's take on it. In our Innovation and Tech segment brought to us by Caldwell Soames and OGPay.com, we have a returning contributor, Paul Caldwell, chairman and CEO of Caldwell Soames. And today we're chatting with his good friend, Thomas Carter, an entrepreneur, CEO, and futurist. Thomas is the founder of Dealbox and current interim CEO of Total Network Services. Today, we are chatting about fintech, NFTs, and blockchain. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with our Millennial Mom segment featuring Nikki Giavasis, brought to us by Hi There. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CCP Digital, bringing you a view from inside blockchain, cryptocurrency, and NFTs. Introducing the latest Blockchain Heroes series, Retro Rebellion NFT collectible card packs from the Nifty Company. Available January 2022. Find out more online at ccpdigital.com. A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Hi There, a creative community exploring the culture, craft, and science of cannabis. Hi There believes that we have a collective responsibility towards eradicating the stigma, misinformation, and inequities surrounding this plant so we can unlock its true potential for all. To become involved and find out what all the excitement is about, download the Hi There app from the App Store and Google Play. Hi There, HIGHTHERE.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes in our Millennial Mom segment brought to us by Hi There, we are featuring Nikki Giavasis. She's an American actress, entrepreneur, author, and a mega influencer. Today, we are chatting relationships and the red flags and the signs that you need to be aware of if you are under the impression that you are dating, that's right, a narcissist, and more importantly, how to get out. So individuals who have narcissistic personality disorder, otherwise known as NPD, which I'm going to refer to often in this interview, believe they are superior and unique compared to others. Signs you could be dating an individual with NPD include the fact that they have very few or no friends, lack empathy, and often gaslight you. When someone posts one too many selfies on their social media or talks about themselves constantly during a first date, you might call them a narcissist. But a true narcissist is someone who has narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. And individuals with NPD believe that they are superior and unique compared to others, and they expect to be recognized and treated as such. Now, they are often unable to recognize the opinions and needs of you and me, and are very dismissive of others' problems. And here to chat some more is my amazing friend, fellow mom, influencer with over 1 million followers. She's a certified hypnotherapist. She's an ordained minister. She's also a Reiki master. That's right. And the creator of Goddess Girls. Welcome back, my awesome friend, Nikki. You are stunning.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're so welcome. All right, Nikki, what makes you the narcissist detector?
Oh my goodness. Well, I've had the unfortunate ability to attract more than one narcissist. So I've become a bit of an expert over time in my long-term relationships. Most of them turned out to be with narcissists.
And talk to me. Well, let's go back. So, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, which is otherwise known as DSM-5, lists 9 criteria for NPD, but it specifies that someone only needs to meet 5 of them to clinically qualify as a narcissist. So, I'm going to list them, and I want you to tell me your red flags and why. Are you ready?
I'm
All
ready.
right. So I'm going to go through a whole bunch of them in a row, and then you're going to help me dissect them. So, grandiose sense of self-importance. I know that you have dealt with this firsthand. Talk to me about this.
Oh my goodness. It's like a blueprint because the world revolves around them. And so it's all about meeting their needs. It's like they think that the world is spinning around their axis. So you have to adjust yourself to constantly please them and constantly also be berated for not living up to the expectations of that grandiose, better than the world personality.
Oh, 100%. Okay, well, you know what? That makes total sense to me. How about preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love? Have you had any experience with this?
Oh my God. I think you're describing the last narcissist to the T. I've had this every single word.
And tell me, the belief they're special and unique and that they can only be understood by or should associate with other special people or high status people or institutions. Talk to me about this one.
This is crazy. Wow. This is literally word for word what I dealt with. It's like they think that they have like this special privilege that they came to this earth and they're gracing everybody with, this unique gift that they have and only they have.
And so you've dated this man before.
Yeah.
The need for excessive admiration, the sense of entitlement, interpersonally exploitative behavior, lack of empathy, envy of others, or a belief that others are envious of them, the demonstration of arrogant and these haughty behaviors or attitudes. Talk to me about some of the real life experiences that you felt diminished while dating a narcissist.
Oh my goodness. Well, with my most recent one, I'll call him Narcissist D. I mean, it gets to a D level because it's like at a certain point, the things that matter the most are not what matter to a narcissist. They're worried about elevation and access and status. So they go after people that might give that to them. So they will go after someone who might have power, prestige, or whatever they want. But at the same time, they resent you for having it because they don't. So they'll try to break you down behind closed doors because they want you to feel inferior to them. And that's where the gaslighting begins.
And true, and what it boils down to is selfishness at the expense of others, really, plus this inability to consider others' feelings at all. But a person's aggression typically indicates the severity of the disorder. So, uh, as a woman, talk to me about some of the most rock bottom moments in a relationship that diminished you as a woman. Are there any real life things that you could share with us?
Gosh. Rock bottom. Um, this is giving me chills because you don't even realize how bad it is when you're in the midst of it. It's like you're in this ongoing drama. It's like you're in a living hell. So I was with a person. I kept trying to leave him. I kept taking him back because it takes 6 times to leave. So he broke into my voicemail, and he heard a police officer that was trying to help me escape. I had already rented another place. I sent him out of town so I could move out. And it was like such an ordeal. He was waiting outside for me because he listened. And I was like at my new place, which was supposed to be my getaway place to start over. And he chased me down and hit me with a car, and he just rammed me and like literally collided into me with a huge SUV.
Oh my goodness, Nikki, that's terrible. I hope this person is in jail.
That was another thing. Like he would be in, they would get slapped on the wrist, in and out of jail. If I got restraining orders, they really didn't matter. It was like, unless they kill you, I mean, it's like, you're getting put into the system, but you're not really preventing any abuse.
It's so true. And women like you who are now strong entrepreneurs and strong symbols of what being a woman truly means at the core of it all. As an influencer and an author and an entrepreneur on social media, you are now empowered, but you went through these very diminishing moments with somebody that tried to make you feel like you weren't worthy. They're very charming at first. How did he make you feel when you first started dating him?
Oh my goodness. I could actually say that at least 2 of them are duplicates of each other because they swoop in, they want things to go really fast. They say that you're soulmates, sweep you off your feet with all of this love bombing. So you're just swept off your feet, and they're saying all the right things. And you don't know that they've studied you or they're mirroring you. They're taking every good quality about you and they're mirroring you. So it's like almost like you're falling in love with yourself, which is what you have to do after you get rid of them. But they literally will come in with grand gestures, all kinds of words. I've searched for you for lifetimes. They want to marry you right away. That's what they always want it with me. I don't know, but I think with most people, they want to get some kind of solid lock you down. So they've maybe within 2 dates, they love you. It's like immediately.
It's terrible. It's terrible. Maybe
Yeah.
within 2 dates they love you. So people with narcissistic personality disorder are going to try to manufacture these superficial connections, like you said, early on in a relationship. Maybe they tell you how smart you are, or emphasize how compatible you are, or even if you just started seeing each other, narcissists seeing each other, they deserve to be with other people who are special, and that special people are the only ones who can appreciate them fully. So this now in turn makes you feel like you are this special soulmate of theirs. But at the end of the day, this is all manipulation at its best. So here's what I want to know. They hog the conversation talking about how great they are. I know that you've encountered and lived this. Tell me more about when you realized, and we have about a minute left, that the guy that you were dating, and we'll cut to a commercial break,
Okay.
was in fact a narcissist. What was that one red flag?
Oh my God, one. It was when he shifted from everything he portrayed himself to be to this monster, and he started attacking me verbally and physically, that I knew that I trapped myself with a narcissist. And my friend had warned me with the love bombing, but I didn't want to believe it. But once he got abusive mentally and physically and abused my dog, that's when I knew that
Oh
he
my
was
God.
a complete narcissist.
Oh gosh, if you could abuse the dog. I mean, you're a woman, you could defend yourself to a certain extent, but a
Mhm.
little animal with not a voice, with not any ability to fight back, that's the low of all lows. Nikki, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us. This is a pleasure chatting with you. Narcissism is not something that anybody should take, lightly. And if you are in a narcissistic relationship, there's definitely plenty of sources out there to get you out. I thank you for coming on and shedding light on this topic.
I'd love to come on with you.
You guys have to check out Nikki Giavasis. Follow her on the gram at Nikki Giavasis Official or directly on her website at NikkiGiavasisOfficial.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Hi There, a creative community exploring the culture, craft, and science of cannabis. Hi There believes that we have a collective responsibility towards eradicating the stigma, misinformation, and inequities surrounding this plant so we can unlock its true potential for all. To become involved and find out what all the excitement is about, download the Hi There app from the App Store and Google Play. Hi There, HIGHTHERE.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We are continuing our conversation with the awesome Nikki Giavasis, and we're chatting all things narcissism and how to spot the red flags. This segment is brought to us by Hi There. Nikki, welcome back to the segment.
Thank you.
So let's pick this up on narcissism and the narcissists out there. Okay, so let's go back to you're on a first date. They hog the conversation. They talk about how great they are. I know for a fact that one of your narcissist boyfriends did this. Tell me more.
It's like they're listening only to say something. They're making everything spin back to being focused on them. They're the prime focus. I had the person I dated try to tell me, I think we're basically equals, even though we weren't really, but he always wanted to put himself up higher in every way. So it's like everything was elevated. It was like a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of lies and deceit, to be honest, because it's like they're creating a facade and the image is not real. It's all it's a bunch of BS, and it's just to try to get you.
And it's interesting because you are a social media influencer. You have over 1 million followers. You've dated some very high profile men. We're not going to name who they are, but clearly a lot of these men that you've dated, these narcissists, have an inflated sense of self-importance and are prone to really exaggerating their achievements and expecting to be recognized as superior, quote unquote. And for the most part, narcissists love to constantly talk about their own accomplishments and achievements with this grandiose sense of accomplishment. But the warning is two-part, Nikki. So
Yeah.
in this situation, your partner won't stop talking about themselves, and second, your partner won't engage in conversations about you, and that's extremely important. So I always like to consider these questions on a first date. Although I am married, happily married to a wonderful man, but I would give advice to my daughters, to my stepdaughter, who I love dearly, Carly, out in Georgia, at University of Georgia. But consider these questions. What happens when you talk about yourself on this first date, or even in generally? Do they ask follow-up questions and express interest to learn more about you, or do they make it about them? Do they feed off of your accomplishments? Talk to me about your experience in this.
I think it's a little twisted because they'll listen to you, but it's like they're gathering intel. So if they're listening and asking questions, it's to find faults or weak points. They're not really listening for anything that it's like they're going to use the information later. So it's like, oh, tell me how the last person was so bad, so I won't be that like that. But that's what they'll use later. But other than that, it's all about them.
So true. So true. You're giving me chills because I know this firsthand when I was, as a young model, dating a lot of narcissists months in my industry until I finally found my soulmate. But in this particular case, narcissists may seem like they're super self-confident, but in truth, Nikki, I found that most people with narcissist personality disorder actually lack self-esteem and
Yeah.
require excessive attention and admiration. They need a lot of praise, and if you're not giving it to them, they'll fish for it.
Oh yeah. That's why they have supply elsewhere, and they don't have a lot of friends. That's true, but they do triangulate people against each other. So the people that are in their lives, they'll always have you kind of like battling against the other people, supposedly because they're the victim of every person. So they're gaining sympathy because they like to attract empaths. So
Yeah. Oh,
they kind of like,
empaths. Let's talk about this, the lack of empathy. So, does your partner care when you've had a bad day at work, fight with your best friend, or scuffle with your parents? Or do they get bored when you express the things making you mad and sad? This inability to empathize or even sympathize is often the
mhm.
very reason why many, if not all, relationships of people with narcissistic personality disorder eventually collapse, whether they're romantic or not, right?
Right. I noticed that I was the last relationship was like eroding steadily, like constantly. And I noticed that when I was sad, it was almost like it would cause anger. So I was sad because it was like near Thanksgiving. My dad's birthday was like right by Thanksgiving. My dad passed away. So I was sad. And he got so angry at me for being sad. And it still gives me chills because it was like, it was all about him for his birthday, which was like a couple days prior. But then when it came down to my feelings and my emotions and my just true sadness, he was almost disgusted.
Oh
So
my
there's no
goodness.
empathy.
I could totally empathize with that, although I've been fortunate to have a partner that not long ago, my father passed in 2016 from aggressive lung cancer, but my husband, Brad Feinstein, on August 23rd, made a big deal for me to make sure that, I remembered my father on this day, and it was completely reciprocated, and it was all about me. And I was emotional, and I was a not nice person that day. I was mean, I was snippy, but I was also mourning, and I had a partner that had my back, so it's important. Let's move on to they don't have any long-term friends. So it's common for people with narcissistic personality disorder to have frequent conflicts with others. Dig deeper into their connections, and you may notice they have few close friends.
Yeah.
So people with narcissism can be hypersensitive and insecure, and as a result, they might lash out when you want to hang out with other people. They might claim that you don't spend enough time with them. They make you feel guilty for spending time with your friends and berate you for the types of friends you have. Talk to me about this.
Oh my goodness. I dealt with all of this as well. It's like your family, they don't want you to be with anyone. They want to isolate you because when they isolate you, that's how they can control you. Because if you have a support system, then they're going to question why you're being treated that way and why you're accepting being treated that way, because you're almost in a state of like reality is not real anymore when you're with that kind of person, because they're so actually insecure and unhappy that they want to bring you into that world. So they'll keep trying to hurt you.
And they pick on you constantly, right? So maybe
Yeah.
at first it felt like teasing, but then it became mean. And suddenly everything you do, from what you wear and eat to who you hang out with and what you watch on TV, is a problem for them. And honestly, antagonism and hostility are well documented traits of people who have NPD, and their toll on other people is large, Nikki, very large.
Yeah. The toll is like, I think for some people you can't recover because it basically kills your soul, it kills your spirit, it kills your everything that you believe about the world, because people are supposed to be good and you're supposed to go into a loving relationship and actually share love and be protected, not be actually abused by the person. So it's almost as if your parent is abusing you. That's the person that's supposed to protect you. So it's like you're in a relationship with someone who's actually seeing you as their enemy.
It's terrible. And one of the warning signs I always say, Nikki, is that if they knock you down with insults when you do something worth celebrating, get yourself out of there.
Definitely. It's almost like they don't want to celebrate your accomplishments. They'll try to do anything to cause a problem and go back to anything that's based on them. Even if they have less to celebrate, they'll still want it to be all about them. and take
Yes.
their emphasis off you.
And what about the gaslight you? Gaslighting is a form of manipulation and emotional abuse, and it's a hallmark of of narcissism. So in fact, people with narcissistic personality disorder may tell blatant lies, falsely accuse others, spin the truth, and ultimately distort your reality, essentially. But they think they're right about everything and never apologize, and that's really the hardest part.
Yeah, I don't think they can take accountability. It's very difficult for them because it's like this grandiose self-image, but also a complete inability to reflect and to have remorse.
Yes, and that's why fighting with a narcissist feels impossible.
It's like you're just spinning in circles.
Spinning in circles. So,
Right.
Nikki, how do you prepare for the breakup? So, do you have advice for women out there to prepare for this emotional disconnection of a person that at once made you feel like a queen, but now you are, strictly, a stepping stone?
I think the first thing is you have to disconnect and you have to accept reality for what it is. So you have to realize that in the beginning, the person that you want to come back was never a real person. That was a mask. And they were trying to match your vibration. They were trying to match everything about you to get you. And every time that they breadcrumb you, and they'll also withhold affection, but you're trying to get that person back that was there in the beginning. And that person's never going to be there. That person was an illusion. So as soon as you accept that and you stop entering into it's like a dance. It's like you can't go back and forth. You just have to stop. So the way that I cut it off was I just stopped fighting. I was like, you know what? Just pack your stuff. I'm the one who's wrong. I'll take the accountability since you can't, and just pack your stuff and leave. And that's what you have to do is you have to sever it and stop believing that they're going to change because they're probably going to just get worse. And you have to stop thinking that the person from the beginning is going to come back. So you have to grieve that.
I couldn't agree more. And also to add to that, I would also say constantly remind yourself that you deserve better. Go out and strengthen your relationship with your empathetic friends, right? Build a support network with friends and family who can help remind you what is reality. But you have to truly, if you don't want to get out and you want to stand the test of time with a narcissist, it's okay, but you have to urge your partner to talk with a therapist and see a therapist yourself because you're going to be at the grunt end of this emotional upheaval, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a lot. You can lose yourself. And I know the first one that I dated in LA, I was doing Billy Blank's Tybo back then. And it was like, Billy was like, we were filming and he's like, what happened to you? Like, you're gone. And it's like, I lost myself. And it was visible to other people. But once you get back into focusing on I deserve better, you get your support system around you, you start doing the things that you love, you realize that when you look back, you'll be like, I don't know why I ever put up with that. But you have to get past it first because the hardest part is breaking that trauma bond. And you're going to be bonded to them at first because they did so much to try to control you.
So true. So true. Nikki, we are out of time, but I just want to thank you so much for coming on and really just being transparent and honest about your loves and your losses and your empowerment and how you have become the mother, the grandmother, the entrepreneur, the author that you are today. So thank you so much for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Guys, you can't change a person with narcissistic personality disorder or make them happy by loving them enough or by changing yourself to meet their whims and desires. They will never be in tune with you, never empathetic to your experiences, and you will always feel empty after an interaction with them. Narcissists can't feel fulfilled in relationships or in any areas of their life because nothing is ever special enough for them. Essentially, you'll never be enough for them because they'll never be enough for themselves. And that's the bottom line. The best thing you can do is cut ties, just like Nikki said. Offer them no explanation. Break up with them and offer no second, third, or fourth chances. That's it, and that's where I end it. You have to check out Nikki Giavasis. She is amazing. Check her out on her social media at Nikki Giavasis Official or head to her website at NikkiGiavasisOfficial.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Revere Securities. Revere is committed to building a relationship of trust in which they work closely with you to help you define your objectives, explore alternatives, and choose the financial and investment strategies that are most appropriate for you. Go to reveresecurities.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our PolitcGal segment brought to us by Revere Securities, we are featuring Kash Patel. Now, Kash served as the former Chief of Staff to Acting Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller under President Donald Trump. Previously, Kash served as the Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Counterterrorism at the National Security Council. He oversaw the execution of several of President Donald Trump's top priorities. He joins me today to help me make sense of the Mar-a-Lago fiasco, and will the DOJ's fishing expedition into Trump really go anywhere? Now, at the center of it all is this affidavit. It has become the major flashpoint in this criminal probe, and this has been going on for a few weeks now. Back in August 8th, if you remember, FBI agents executed a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago estate, carting away dozens of boxes containing what they've characterized as highly classified national secrets. So this affidavit provides the most comprehensive rationale for why the government pushed to search Trump's property and what the investigative steps it took beforehand. It would show whom the justice officials had interviewed, what they believed was potentially on the premises, and why they assessed there was probable cause that crimes had been committed. This all sounds like a one big, huge conspiracy theory, but the Justice Department opposed releasing the document from get. Making the affidavit public could chill potential witnesses, risk the safety of those already interviewed, and reveal future investigative steps. Well, news organizations pushed for its disclosure, citing public interest, and of course you can see why, in this case stemming from Trump's possession of classified documents. There's so much going back and forth, but here to make sense of it all and give me some insight is the awesome Kash Patel. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Zen, it's great to be on with a fellow New Yorker. I'm glad we're bringing conservative values in America first back to New York and my hometown of Strong Island. So this is fun.
I love it. Okay, so I couldn't be more excited to have you on. What's going on here, Kash? What was this raid really about? And will they ever release an unredacted affidavit, in your opinion?
No. And here's the look, probably more relevant to your audience than the titles I had for President Trump were the fact that I was a national security prosecutor for a number of years in multiple administrations, and an intel guy before that. And I did these types of warrants, these types of prosecutions. And as a public defender before that, I challenged these types of search warrants. And here's what's going to happen. All roads lead back to Russiagate. And I may be biased because I was a chief Russiagate investigator for Devin Nunes when he exposed the Nunes memo and all that other corruption. But I mean it. And the media isn't listening. Basically, it's the same crew at the FBI and the counterintelligence division that ran Russiagate against Trump unlawfully, ran Hillary Clinton's email investigation, ran the Hunter Biden laptop scheme, ran January 6th, ran the Whitmer prosecution. The same agents, literally, I'm not making this up, are running the counterintelligence division for the Mar-a-Lago raid. Why do I bring that up? Devin and I always made a big deal of transparency when we were doing Russiagate. And we've always said, we only got 60% of the documents out. The worst 40% has been marred in bureaucratic gymnastics and people trying to block government corruption. So as bad as you thought it is 10 times worse. And they raided Mar-a-Lago to prevent the release of those and other documents that President Trump promised transparency on. And it's a fight worth having. And I'm telling you, all roads lead back to Russiagate. I couldn't encourage your audience more to watch The Plot Against the President. If they don't know what I'm talking about, they need to get re-educated. It's the best documentary out there. President Trump just truthed about it again. It's shocking to me how many people, even on our side, don't know the basic facts of Russiagate.
It's interesting because if you go back, I mean, yes, Russiagate, you recently told Newsmax that Trump's raid is likely linked to the Russia probe, and I 100% wholeheartedly agree. And then we have David Ignatius's opinion piece for the Washington Post says, and quote, you're Trump's point man in his battle against the deep state. And he said that you have emerged as a chief public exponent of Trump's claim that he could declassify information, including highly sensitive Russia probe material at will. So the question is here, the other 40% of that material that we want to get our hands on, will we truly be able to see that transparently?
Not during this Congress, and not until the gavel switches, we say, in the majority flips. Look, when we ran Russiagate, now America has learned the power of Congress and being in the majority. Devin and I were in the majority, and we still had to fight our tails off just to get the release of the documents out, because the deep state didn't want to show their own corruption. But it's possible. And once the gavels flip and we have leaders like Jim Jordan and company on judiciary, you're going to run these investigations like we ran Russiagate. Here's what you do. You send out subpoenas to every person, every director, every head of every agency, Chris Wray, Merrick Garland, the CIA, the State Department, everybody, and you have them testify publicly. But more important than that is you subpoena all the documents, and they'll say this: oh, we can't give them to you. There's an open counterintelligence investigation on this matter. The same tactic they ran back in Russiagate by ginning up a faulty investigation of Trump is why they raided Mar-a-Lago, because now they're able to say, and I know this as a former federal prosecutor, open investigation, we don't have to turn over everything. And do you know how you get them to turn over everything? You take their money. We did it for Russiagate, and 1,200 documents showed up the next day.
That's unbelievable. So here's what I don't understand. So back in May, Trump voluntarily accepted a grand jury subpoena for his office's record keeper, seeking documents with classified markings. And he then invited the FBI to come to Mar-a-Lago to retrieve them. And on June 3rd, top DOJ counterintelligence official Jay Bratt came to Mar-a-Lago with 3 other agents, and Trump greeted them in the dining room. Trump then left the agents with Trump's record keeper and counsel, adding that whatever you need, just let us know. So once back in the dining room, one of the FBI agents said, thank you. You didn't need to show us the storage room, but we do appreciate it. Now it all makes sense. So counsel for President Trump then closed the interaction and advised the government officials that they should contact him with any further needs on the matter. So this is quite perplexing. If you do your research and you don't necessarily read the headlines, why did this raid take place if they were all, in agreement that whatever you need, we will cooperate with? That's what I don't understand.
The FBI and DOJ were never in agreement, and Jay Bratt is a partisan, just like John Carlin, his boss, and Lisa Monaco. These are the same officials that ran Russiagate, right? The same crew at DOJ. And what about the agents that were down there? We'll find out their names, and I bet you same FBI agents from the counterintel under Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and company, you're going to find these guys got promoted and just kept working these matters. It's a ruse that the FBI is saying, oh, we, the FBI and DOJ, were cooperative. They say that so they can publicly put out, oh, we were nice to Donald Trump. That's not how you run these cases. I used to run them. You pretend when you have a target of an investigation to be their friend so you can play the media card and say, we were nice. They've been planning this raid for months. It does not happen overnight. The necessary approvals, and Merrick Garland told us so, the AG himself had to personally authorize this. And there's a flat out lie that they have been perpetuating that the White House did not know. The White House counsel's office for sure knew this raid was happening. And I think you're going to see media soon that shows the White House's lies. Then that even they told President Biden, because there had to be a waiver of executive privilege to get the documents that we now know are seized that are protected under the law. So the FBI is just setting up epithets to sling in the fake news media to say we did everything the right way. They didn't. The only person that was cooperative was Donald Trump and his attorneys. And they took advantage of that like they normally do when the target is President Trump.
It's interesting, Kash, because the only thing we see in all of this is the extent of government corruption. And right now you have the public outcry. First of all, everyone wants, they're massively against the DOJ right now. And in some respects, this does help Trump. A lot of the public is really upset at what just transpired. But Trump filed a lawsuit asking a federal judge to appoint a special watchdog to review the documents seized. And his lawsuit also asks the judge to block the Department of Justice from further review of seized materials until the so-called special master is appointed to review those documents. The raid, a shockingly aggressive move, in my opinion, which really accounts to Trump as kind of everything he's ever said about conspiracy and deep state is almost kind of, coming to fruition in its own way. But at this point right now, it feels like, in your humble opinion, is law enforcement in this case being used as a weapon for political purposes?
Yeah, and it never stopped when the target was President Trump. We showed the world when we ran Russiagate that just think about it. In America, in modern history, we proved that the FBI went into bed with the political party, the DNC, took in millions of dollars and fake intelligence and hijacked the law enforcement and intel community and went to a secret judge that I used to go to hunt down terrorists as a national security prosecutor to illegally surveil a presidential campaign. That's what they did. We proved it. Nobody believed us back then. The DOJ Inspector General came in and said, oh, actually, wait, you guys were right. Fast forward. This is why I say it's connected to Russiagate. The same corrupt crew is working these matters, and you hit it right on the head. That's the problem. It's not the 99% that are in FBI and DOJ that I used to work with. It's the corrupt leadership. They're back from that time. The Comey descendants and disciples, the John Carlins of the world, who used to be my boss at DOJ, is the number 3. Lisa Monaco, Trump hater, number 2. Merrick Garland. Chris Wray has always blocked for the left-wing media just so he can keep his job. And on his watch, corrupt FBI officials have continued the unlawful and unethical investigation into President Trump. That's what this raid is going to show, but we're going to need Congress's help to get the documents out. This judge is a magistrate judge. He has no authority. His decisions will be appealed, and he will not allow the the affidavit to come out. He will allow DOJ to wave the win in the public by saying, oh, we're going to redact it, and you're going to see a page full of black magic marker.
Yep, because this magistrate, Judge Bruce Reinhart, said that he was inclined, to your point, to unseal some of the affidavits central to this FBI search, but that it would, in fact, be so heavily redacted that releasing it would be meaningless. So, the point is, then what's the point of even releasing it if we're just going to, see a whole bunch of, strikes and black markers, right?
The point is DOJ has done this before, Russiagate. They said, oh, yeah, we're going to turn over all these documents to the House Intelligence Committee, to Kash and Devin. We got all these documents, 98% redacted. So they get the media headline, we're being cooperative, we're being transparent. But the fake news media will allow their lies to be perpetuated, and we have to call them out. I don't want a 98% redacted document. I don't want a 50% redacted document. We're not going to see that affidavit anytime soon, but we should fight for it, or Trump should fight for it in court and educate the public on when the corruption is finally exposed, who asked for the document unredacted, who withheld it, and what agents at the FBI and DOJ allowed these redactions. The same people that took the black magic marker and outlined the corruption in Russiagate are doing the editing right now.
Yeah, those are some great questions to ask oneself. It's just those are the right questions to be asking as a forward thinker here, and not part of the liberal, biased media. But in my humble opinion, so to speak, to be clear, this search on the face of it represented a relatively unimportant scuffle between a minor government agency, the National Archives, trying to enforce a point of principle, and the Trump team in Florida, likely more disorganized, in my opinion, than unwilling, so to speak. But this has gone too far. And even this judge, this magistrate, said that this raid was unprecedented. And if you do read a lot of the articles and the statements that even this magistrate has made, he's kind of, trying to look under the hood and asking himself, like, what's really going on here? Because even at their level, Kash, they don't know what you know, right? So this is a lot of perplexing stuff to be part of as an American, and it doesn't make me feel any more comfortable.
No, you're absolutely right. And look, the judge is in on it. I don't care what anyone says. The judge knew what he was doing, knew he was authorizing the raid of a former president of the United States to get documents such as attorney-client privilege and executive privilege documents, Trump's passports, and other things from Melania's closet, of all places. This is an overly broad search warrant. That's what the Fourth Amendment protects against. And there needs to be a public hearing on why this judge authorized it. He is as political as the people that he is working with at DOJ and FBI. And it needs to be exposed. And that's why there needs to be reforms, not just in the judiciary, but mostly at FBI and DOJ, on how they go about obtaining these warrants when the target is political. Because all the rules get thrown out. Hunter Biden's laptop run totally differently than this one. Hillary Clinton email gate, totally differently. Peter Strzok's on the media claiming, oh, it was an in-depth investigation of Hillary. No, it wasn't. You guys invited her over for coffee and tea, literally, with people who are conflicted out of the case to say, what should we do? Nothing. And of course, we know she actually possessed and sent classified information. And to that point, the president of the United States is the sole arbiter of classification authority. Me, as the former deputy director of national intelligence, can tell you that affirmatively. That is a fact. Anyone arguing there's process and procedure in place is arguing against reality, because all they know is that's a true statement And if President Trump declassified it like he did in October, like he did in January, like he did in December, then it's incumbent upon the government to say, wait a second, where's the proof that that did not occur? Because the burden is on the government.
Well said, my friend. Well said. Well, we are out of time. That was definitely a very enlightening interview. Thank you so much for your plethora of information, your deep knowledge in this, and more importantly, for keeping it real with our listeners. Kash, it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks so much, Zen.
Guys, you definitely have to check out Kash Patel on Truth Social. He's at Kash, fightwithkash.com. And you definitely have to check out his book, theplotagainsttheking.com. It is a children's book, currently #1 best-selling book in America. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. That was our PolitcGal segment brought to us by Revere Securities. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Revere Securities. Revere is committed to building a relationship of trust in which they work closely with you to help you define your objectives, explore alternatives, and choose the financial and investment strategies that are most appropriate for you. Go to reveresecurities.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcoming back to our PolitcGal segment is the awesome Kash Patel. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thanks so much for having me, Zen. Love being on the program.
All right, great. Loved our conversation earlier. Let's pick it up with, what are your predictions? Do you think Trump runs again, and will an announcement come before the November elections?
Look, as often as I talk to the president, and I used to work for him as one of his top aides, I've learned a couple of things. One, Trump does stuff on Trump time. So if I make a prediction, I'll probably get it wrong. But I think the one thing I can say definitively is that should he decide to pull the trigger, it's because of the following. And he said it publicly. He's like, I hate the direction our country's going in. He can't stand it. It's not that he wants to be president again or anything like that, but look around at our border, at our crisis overseas, at our falling on the global stage and the economy and whatever. Everything can go on and on. So yes, I do believe that's what he wants to do. I think the timing will just depend on, like it usually does in Trump time.
In Trump time. That's a good answer. Okay, so if you look at the overall picture, one would say, even for those that never agreed, that it does feel like there's something going on with the deep state, quote unquote, and with this witch hunt. I mean, the House January 6th committee and the DOJ continue to investigate Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election and incitement of the deadly U.S. Capitol attack. So that's there. Trump is also under investigation in New York over his business and tax affairs, and in Georgia regarding attempts to overturn his defeat by Joe Biden. Also, it was confirmed that Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York, who became Trump's personal attorney, is the target of a criminal investigation, again, back in Georgia, over his role in the attempt to overturn the election. Then you have a judge ruled that Lindsey Graham, a Trump ally and Republican senator from South Carolina, could not avoid testifying in the Georgia investigation. There is a lot of focus on Donald Trump, all around one man, and now it's permeating into the GOP, the Republican Party. What are your thoughts on this?
Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. It's what the radical left and the media do. It's Russiagate, it's Hillarygate, it's Hunter Biden, it's Jan 6, it's impeachment 1, impeachment 2, and now it's the Mar-a-Lago raid, and they'll come up with something else afterwards. They come in with their fake story. They hijack the intel and law enforcement communities. They launch a bogus investigation to try to drive Trump out of office, which is always the end goal. Then a proper investigation reveals the truth. They race past it and go to Hollywood to Hollywoodize whatever they're trying to do. And then they create the next scandal. Is anyone even talking about Jan 6th anymore? And I was the first guy subpoenaed by the January 6th committee. Costed me $200,000 to adjudicate that subpoena. I had no problem going in there and telling them the truth. And we put all the documents out. And that's what I want your viewers to key in on. All of our documents go out for free, not ours. The government documents we find are on fightwithkash.com. From Jan 6, from Durham stuff, from Russiagate, from Biden, from the laptop, everything is for free. That's part of the mission, is to educate the American public with the government's own documents. And we destroyed the January 6th fake headline that President Trump didn't act. He acted early. He authorized National Guard 2 days before. He followed the law, and Nancy Pelosi and Mayor Bowser refused that security assistance. And that's why me as chief of staff and the SecDef did not have the National Guard there at the ready on January 6th, because the law prohibited it, because they denied our request.
That's some insight. That's definitely some insight there. Okay, moving on to something a little bit more lighthearted. I hear you have a #1 best-selling book. You are an author. Congratulations. It's called The Plot Against the King.com. Tell me about this book, and more importantly, why a children's book?
So, as the Russiagate guy for Devin, we thought we had educated the world on it through things like The Plot Against the President, Lee Smith's amazing book, and Amanda Milius's great documentary. But my publicist was like, hey, what about the kids? And I'm like, what about them? Honestly, I wasn't even thinking at that level. And she was like, well, we need to educate our children on something that's not CRT and gender dynamics at 6. So we found this amazing company down in Texas, Brave Books, and we put on an education platform, and we created The Plot Against the King. So The Plot Against the King is Russiagate for kids, it's Russiagate for adults, and apparently on Truth Social, it's Russiagate for pets. Everybody's loving it. The pictures are amazing, but it's not a political book. It's not be Republican, be conservative, be Democrat, be liberal. It's teaching our children the importance of the truth and serving in government by using what happened in history to educate them. And so this book did so well. We're now doing a trilogy, and we're about to announce the sequel to The Plot Against the King, sticking with that educating our youth timeline. And look, I don't have kids, but I have nieces and nephews. And I, for one, am with the folks at Brave Books who say we need to educate our children about what's going on in America with our constitutional values. And our goal, we're going to put one of these books in every school across America. So go to theplotagainsttheking.com and grab your copy and join the fun.
Oh, I love it. So I know you're also very active with giving back. I know you believe in balancing that out. You have an active nonprofit. So I also want to take my hat off to you for that, because you are definitely making sure that you have balanced it all, bringing truth, helping others, and of course, keeping it real. Thank you so much for coming on, Kash. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks so much, Jen. Hope to be back soon.
Oh, you will. Guys, you have to definitely check him out on Truth Social at Kash. Head to fightwithkash.com and check out this awesome children's book, The Plot Against the King.com, but not just for children, definitely cool reading for adults as well. That was our PolitcGal segment brought to us by Revere Securities, and that was Kash Patel. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes, we have our influencer segment brought to you by ogpay.com. And today we are featuring the amazing Buck Sexton. For those of you who have not heard of him, can't imagine, he's a widely popular radio and television talk show host and conservative political commentator. He's also the co-host with Clay Travis of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, which is a nationally syndicated talk radio show. And you can listen to them live right here on 710 WR, the voice of New York, Friday from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Now, today we're chatting about the Inflation Reduction Act and what it aims to really accomplish. As Democrats achieve their goal of jamming through the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, reality is becoming very clear, my friends. Using the fancy Congressional Budget Office's latest scoring estimates of the changes and accounting for all the expensive gimmicks, it's likely that the bill will produce deficits. What we know is that the bill will likely increase near-term inflation, depress household incomes, and produce the long-term deficits that fuel long-term inflation. So counterproductive. Now, the cumulative deficit would be around $52 billion over the next 4 years, and that's at least $110 billion through the fiscal year to 2031. That would mean adding to near-term and long-term inflationary pressures. And in hindsight, this budget could be as far away from a genuine Inflation Reduction Act as possible. Now, more like a litany of policies aimed at scoring political points that have been really recklessly put together is what this is. Now, this Inflation Reduction Act utilizes 3 sets of common congressional gimmicks to mask its true costs. You ready? cherry-picked expiration dates, we'll get to that in just a bit, ignoring net interest costs because the geniuses that calculated all of this are in fact not that intelligent, and indirect tax burdens. Of course, we the people will have to dish out and dish back all that stimulus money. And here to chat some more and give us his opinion is the awesome iHeart radio host, Buck Sexton. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Zen, thanks for having me back.
Okay, here we go. So one major overestimation of savings presented by this bill is a claim to $204 billion, Buck, in increased revenues from cracking down on tax fraud. Now, the legislation includes $80 billion in increased IRS funding over 10 years. Buck, is an army of new IRS agents coming for our tax dollars?
What else are they going to do? The idea that what the American people need or even deserve right now is a whole lot more bureaucrats who are going to have the explicit and express purpose of squeezing more money out of them. I mean, that's what this is going to be. Most of the analyses that I've seen from serious places, not, Biden propaganda machines, show that this is likely to fall. A lot of the increased tax burden will fall on small businesses. As we know, the collectivists, the Democrats, they hate small businesses as a general thing. I mean, there are exceptions. They like big business because big business and big government tend to go hand in hand. Anti-competitive practices, big donations for the party that will make sure that monopolies like Google and Amazon and others are protected. So, yeah, I think what we see is the IRS going to be supercharged, IRS on steroids, however you want to say it. And this is going to be really annoying because the tax code is opaque on purpose and nobody even really knows what they're supposed to pay.
Yeah,
that's the reality of it.
And not only is this going to be annoying, but let me actually break it down. So there's 87,000 new IRS agents that are going to be coming to audit ordinary taxpayers. But this is the crazy part. So according to an IRS source, a significant portion of the $20 billion estimated by CBO, and CBO is the Congressional Budget Office, would be recouped from wealthier people who are underreporting their income. Now, the IRS claims that people are trying to look like they are under 400K when actually they are well above it. But this feels like a witch hunt for the upper class if you really look at it from hindsight.
Well, the truth is that the people that always get the roughest stuff from the IRS are income earners as opposed to major asset havers, if you will, people that have a lot of stocks, a lot of homes. They also tend to have much better accounting and legal representation. So, if you go after somebody who has $10 million in the bank or $1 billion in the bank, much more so, you're going to find someone who has the ability and the resources to fight an audit. If you're making $100,000 a year in New York City, if you're a small business owner, maybe pulling in $150,000, the IRS says you owe us $10,000 more than you think you do. That hurts because of the relative to the amount of income that person's getting. And also to fight it will probably cost more than what it would cost to just pay it. So the calculation for people becomes, well, I don't want to keep getting dragged into this, so I'll just write them, as painful as it may be, I'll write them this check for 10 or 15 or 20 grand. And that played out millions of times across the country is effectively what audits really often become. I mean, they'll do some higher level audits of big name people just because that's then deterrence. They'll say it's deterrence enforcement or deterrence prosecution, but that's not where the money is. I mean, the money's with everyday folks. And I think our tax code is a joke. I think it's appalling that we have thousands and thousands of pages, that this should all be on a postcard. This should be a one-page thing. I mean, the flat tax or fair tax, whichever one you want to advocate for, I think makes so much more sense. And this is also just a function of government thinking that the answer is to always spend more and tax more. This is what Democrats do. This is who they are. They believe they can spend money better than the people who make the money. And they always want to promise more. And then they're just going to try to play the redistribution game and try to make sure that they act like they're the heroes of the working class when they're actually making it harder for everybody.
Very true. Very true. Those are wise words. You should.
I have a lot of wise words. That's what I do. Wise words.
I know, I see your quotes, but to really add insult to injury, almost every provision of this bill is going to bleed the bank accounts of American families. And tragically, the deficit and inflation increasing aspects of the Inflation Reduction Act are only the beginning of its burdens, Buck. But let's move on to this Green New Deal policy. Okay, so Americans right now are suffering the weight of high inflation. And two areas where that pain is really being felt, especially hard, is at the gas pump and at the grocery store. So regular retail gas prices are about double what they were when President Joe Biden took office. Food prices, the inflation is at levels not seen in more than 40 years. The Biden administration can try and play all the word games they want, but the Inflation Reduction Act may be the biggest misinformation campaign yet, right? I mean, this is what this is feeling like.
They're calling it an inflation bill when it's not actually going to reduce inflation. If anything, it'll probably increase it a little bit. Inflation, as Milton Friedman said, always and everywhere is a function of monetary policy. So this is because of what the government, this is not anything other than people that say, oh, it's about the expanding economy because of all the demand, because of COVID. Bullcrap. Inflation is a function of the government putting more dollars in circulation and devaluing the currency in the process. So we all see what's going on here. But, ultimately, the ability to spend money is the ability to wield and use power. And that's what Democrats come into office to do. They're not there to safeguard the Constitution and allow for the flourishing of the American marketplace. In their minds, they are there to find ways to involve themselves in as much as possible, to dictate to everybody as much as they can, and make you do things because they know better. I mean, this is at the heart of all collectivist ideology. It's something that Democrats, who are increasingly socialists in their economic outlook, it's obvious. I mean, they don't like that term. We've had more and more of them adopted openly in recent years. And so they're not going to help people economically. That's clear. The Green New Deal boondoggle aspects of this should be deeply offensive to anybody. But the problem is, you talk numbers, and even right now we're talking about all this stuff. There are a lot of people like,
yeah,
this stuff matters, but it doesn't sound exciting. It doesn't, it's not.
Well, it doesn't sound exciting until you really look at this and look at the flip side, because the misinformation is mind-boggling here. But Biden's imposed shift away from conventional fuels that provide us affordable and real abundant energy is going to shift even further. So if you're an oil company or a refiner, why invest? Especially when this bill is telling them that Washington politicians want to kill off their industry. That's going to affect my bottom line at the pump. In fact, rising energy prices are not unintended consequences of their policies, but rather the envisioned outcomes. And that's key here. This is not something the administration has been shy about acknowledging. If we could go back to a statement that Biden recently said, is when it comes to the gas prices, we're going through an incredible transition that is taking place that, God willing, when it's over, we'll be stronger and the world will be stronger and less reliant on fossil fuels when this is over. And keeping with the party's mentality, you also have then President Barack Obama. He said, under my plan, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket. Then you can go back to Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg reportedly argued that more Americans should purchase electric vehicles so that they'll never have to worry about gas prices again. So in the end, Buck, the way I see it, there's little to no regard for the high prices incurred by Americans and the costs that will arise for trying to achieve this very radical climate agenda, period, in the end.
Well, climate change is a religious belief. I mean, the moment that you understand, and then say, what, you don't believe in climate change? I mean, the climate's been changing always and always will. It's been changing forever and will continue to do so. What the climate change movement is all about. And it's interesting how they've even changed the description of the movement from the fight against global warming. And remember all the stuff we heard about the ozone layer. I mean, there's the desire for a doomsday environmentalist panic is something that has been with us for a long time in certain segments of the population. I mean, there's just people that they're looking for meaning, they're looking for purpose, and they think they find it in these imaginary struggles against the end of the world that they engage in, mostly by lecturing their friends and neighbors about how, you shouldn't be driving that car, and by occasionally recycling or whatever. I mean, it's so stupid that they even created essentially a false idol. I mean, they were worshiping a 16-year-old girl who was going around the world lecturing everyone on what multi-trillion-dollar economies should be doing when it comes to their energy policy, and adults who think they're smart were not only, I mean, they weren't just clapping for this. I mean, they were enamored with it. They thought that she was saving the world because unfortunately the climate change catastrophism mentality very quickly, I think, exposes itself as a mental illness, the same way that, COVID catastrophism does. I mean, these people, there's something wrong with them. I mean, they're effectively living out an anxiety disorder and making us all live through the rest of it. Because what could be crazier than someone who really thinks the world is going to end unless you adopt my obscure policy proposal? I shouldn't say obscure, but worthless policy proposals, better way of saying it, because it won't actually, even by the numbers they give you, change anything in a meaningful enough way to avert the catastrophe that they think will befall us. So why are we being lectured about this all the time? Your point about the price of energy, they want people to suffer who use fossil fuels. I mean, they actually think that this is something that you should, almost the way that they view taxation of cigarettes and alcohol as, it's really just a way for the government to get fat and happy from taking more money from people, especially a lot of people who don't have a lot of spare income anyway. They view fossil fuels the way that they view cigarettes and alcohol, where it's just, we should drive the price up because it will enrich the coffers of the state. And also we should punish people for their grossness. And that's windmills, great. You want to get solar panels in your house. You can't afford groceries, but solar panels in your house, Biden, they're all about this stuff. But
well, listen, I'm going to cut to a commercial break because I want to hear more. I love what you're saying, and it's resonating. It's hitting really close to home, but I'm glad you're saying it and not me. But at the end of the day, when the federal government attempts to print its way out of fiscal irresponsibility, it does so by imposing an inflation tax on every American household. But the best path to take would be to drop the distortionary tax increases and spending subsidies and instead reduce the deficit by just cutting spending. It's just a very simple mathematical thing, but they can't get it right. Listen, Buck, it was a pleasure chatting with you. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Please stay put. Don't move a muscle. Guys, you have to check out Buck Sexton at the Clay and Buck Show. You definitely can listen to them Monday through Friday, 12 to 3 p.m. right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. Joining us back to the segment is our good friend, Buck Sexton. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. So we're chatting about this Inflation Reduction Act, and we're talking about expanding government-run health plans. So one of the sticky points in this Inflation Reduction Act is that the healthcare provisions are the latest play out of the single payer government run health plan playbook. And the plan would extend the Obamacare COVID-19 expansion 3 more years beyond its current date. And it would force government price controls on pharmaceuticals in Medicare and claim Medicare savings to offset the cost of the entire package. So it seems that there are certain taxpayer-funded handouts and giveaways, Buck, that seem to always get extended in perpetuity. And this was among the first provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act that the Senate Democrats committed to voting for. Think of that one. How is this helping my bottom line?
Well, it's not, but emotion over economics is something the Democrats are very good at. It feels good to push more state money, federal, state, whatever, at people's healthcare issues, even though, as we see, I mean, the single biggest drain on the budgets of states like New York are Medicaid related. And beyond that, healthcare keeps getting more expensive and crappier the more they do this stuff. It doesn't actually improve the market conditions, doesn't actually improve care. But it is very emotional for people to think that we could only be some of these other countries. And they always talk about these other countries out of context. And in what ways are their health outcomes better? Are their populations just healthier because of lifestyle choices? There's a lot of things that go into it. But they essentially say that we could all just see any doctor you want, get any healthcare you want, and not really pay anything except the rich people will pay for it. That's the fundamental lie of the entire healthcare system that the Democrats want. And it's pushing forward to that, or they're moving in that direction incrementally with all of the subsidy programs that they have out of Obamacare specifically, and in this expanding it. Obamacare was really mostly a Medicaid expansion program, which people don't realize. It just expanded Medicaid to tens of millions of people, which is actually not very good healthcare because really good doctors and medical systems don't want to take it.
Yeah.
So because it doesn't pay enough, because they have to keep some cost controls in place. So that the system just keeps on going through this, but reality is not something Democrats excel at understanding.
No, the true. And then to keep the reported cost of this provision down, they chose 3 years for a very specific reason, because it's what they could afford on paper, Buck. But however, accounting for political reality, these subsidies are likely going to cost at least $147 billion more than what is being reported through fiscal year 2031. So it's kind of misplaced in there. And lastly, the proposal's Medicare price negotiation is another win for single payer government run advocates. When I say single payer approach is when the government pays for medical care without fully embracing socialized medicine. But the so-called Medicare prescription drug negotiation plan has nothing to do with negotiation and everything to do with government price setting. What's going to happen to grandma and gramps in this scenario, Buck?
It'd be interesting to see. I mean, the issue is that, as I said, big government and big corporations work very well together. And so usually there's actually all kinds of collusion that goes on. I mean, look at big pharma and the federal government and not only the mandating of taking the COVID vaccine as a policy, which the federal government pushed, but also the removal of any liability for it. So you must take this, and if it screws you up, too bad.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to make millionaires out of like secretaries at Pfizer as a result of this because of all the stock options they could exercise. So, and not just Pfizer, obviously Moderna, et cetera. As to the drug prices, look, a lot of seniors vote, and seniors pay a lot for their prescription drugs. And so whoever promises they're going to bring their drug prices down is in the short run going to have some political benefit from it. This is what Democrats are doing. What does it actually mean in the long run for the overall cost of care for seniors? The money's going to come from somewhere. So who's paying for it? What's going to happen? And in what ways are they suggesting that this will benefit seniors in the long run? I mean, that's what I would want to know, because the truth is the Trump administration was also talking about bringing down, allowing for more negotiation with Medicare as opposed to Medicaid for prescription drugs. So there is an issue here, but I just don't ever think that Democrats, because they reject markets in favor of emotional appeal. So I don't think that they're actually going to be doing things here that really do help, even though they know they have to pretend they will.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
So well said. And so we're almost out of time. But to your point, seniors only need to look at the Department of Veteran Affairs to see a version of this in practice. Seniors should really expect less access to critical drugs and treatment and treatment than they have today, really. And everyone will be harmed by lack of newer drugs and cures being developed as a result in the future. So this is just so counterproductive and counterintuitive. But yeah, you're right. They can't get it. Listen, I know we're out of time. You are a busy man with places to be and people to see, but I want to thank you for coming on, Buck. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Great talking to you.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Guys, that was the awesome Buck Sexton. Check him out right here, 12 to 3, Monday through Friday on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. You're listening to A Moment of Zen. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. In our Innovation and Tech segment brought to us by Caldwell Soames and OG Pay, today we have our returning contributor, Paul Caldwell, Chairman and CEO of Caldwell Soames, and we're chatting with his good friend, Thomas Carter, an entrepreneur, a CEO, and a futurist. I love that. Thomas is the founder of Dealbox, and he's the current interim CEO of Total Network Services, which is a global blockchain infrastructure, naming services, and applications technology company. Now, as an emerging leader in fintech, Thomas always looks deeper into the utility of blockchain. Dealbox brings SEC-compliant tokenized securities into capital markets. Today, we're chatting fintech, NFTs, blockchain, and tokenization. Now, non-fungible tokens are unique cryptographic tokens that exist on a blockchain and can't be replicated. They can represent real-world items, anything from artwork to real estate. Tokenizing these real-world tangible assets makes buying, selling, and trading them more efficient while reducing the probability of fraud. However, behind the fanfare of owning digital items is a much bigger and more important picture. NFTs are on the verge of completely revolutionizing trade finance and global commerce. There's the potential to tokenize a wide range of assets and connect real-world finance origination to the decentralized finance, otherwise known as DeFi markets. Trade finance instruments, such as fixed income products and investment notes, can securely move along the blockchain in a manner that brings transparency, facilitates seamless settlement, and extends liquidity. At the same time, smart contracts eliminate intermediaries, reduce counterparty risk, and preserve the integrity of deliverables. We're talking about a new class of financial assets, as well as a significant overhaul to almost every payment system, financial service, and supply chain in the world. And it may be coming sooner than most think. Knowing that almost anything can become an NFT, how do you go about tokenizing your existing assets is the real question. Artist Mike Winkelmann, otherwise known as Beeple, remember him? He sold the NFT of a digital image collage for $69 million. That's right, $69 million. Sounds good, right? You could sell any of your assets or artwork at such a price? Probably not. But by tokenizing your assets, you can make a digital representation of the asset using blockchain technology. And that is where the gold is. Here to chat some more is Thomas Carter and Paul Caldwell. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Hey there.
Hi, Zen.
Nice to have both of you on.
Great to be here.
Thomas, I'll start with you. Great to have you on. What does one need to really know about asset tokenization? And really, what are the most important steps for developing non-fungible tokens for your assets?
Well, I think when you talk about non-fungible and like security tokens, it's really two different things. The looking at tokenization for real world assets in terms of securities or tokenizing revenue, you could tokenize debt, you could tokenize equity. Those are security tokens. You're gonna have to follow security guidelines like Reg D, SEC framework for those types of opportunities. And also with NFTs, I think we're going to find that a lot of the NFTs that currently exist might have regulatory challenges.
Interesting. So essentially, if you look at the whole picture, what is asset tokenization? I mean, is it really referring to the process of creating digital tokens that represent ownership of a real life asset, really as commonly known as NFTs? Is that really the bottom line?
Well, again, the NFT is going to be a non-fungible. I think when you talk about securities that need to trade, those would be fungible.
Those would be fungible.
Those would be fungible. So an example, like a real life example, is we just did a security token off the company Dealbox. That's what we focus on, both traditional offerings and security token offerings. So with Total Network Services, we just did a security token offering where we tokenized the revenue in that case. And and I think investors might like the idea of tokenizing revenue because they're going to get a piece of the revenue as opposed to waiting for a dividend. So it might be a little faster transaction. And also that's going to help with capital formation because you could get more creative with capital formation in terms of ownership by perhaps tokenizing the revenue, and then therefore you're not going to be maybe giving up as much equity at that point in time.
Got it. Got it. That makes total sense. Paul, so piggybacking off what Thomas just said, so NFTs, for example, could allow startups really to create digital representations of commodities and explore new models of raising capital through this frictionless system that we're talking about. And furthermore, the structure and transparency of blockchain makes it relatively easy for any entity to stay inside a regulatory framework. And once those frameworks are fully locked down is really kind of where you kind of see its full potential. But in fact, everything from debt management processes to the provenance of goods can be streamlined and verified using NFTs. Some say this is the beginning of a new paradigm. Talk to me about commercial tokenization solutions here and how it parlays.
I think to Thomas's point, if one can appreciate the reality out in the world, a regulated environment is always a more trusted environment. Certainly at the commercial level or in the capital market space. In any case, I often get asked about cryptocurrencies. Is there a cryptocurrency correlate? Is it a good hedge against equities? And I say absolutely not, unless you wanted to draw a correlate against maybe certain technology stocks and Bitcoin or something. Maybe you could build a correlation there, but correlation doesn't equal causation. I don't think great companies' equities live or die by or even correlate to what goes on in the cryptocurrency markets, frankly. And also in our funds, I should say that we're much more bullish on blockchain than we are on cryptocurrencies. That's a whole nother thing. I think I should just put that out there. NFTs, on the other hand, very interesting. Non-fungible tokens, tokenizing things that are important in commerce, in commercial commerce, and things like real property titles is a good example maybe of that. If you're tokenizing them for a particular reason, tokenization, NFTs, and married to digital rights management, for example, Thomas and his team have built this UCI. This technology that I think it's a universal process or whatever, a technology for security. I think that kind of thing married to digital rights management as well, where people can own their own data and sort of create their own personal identity passport is also great. That gets down into the individual layer, but think about businesses doing this.
Yes.
I also think, Zen, if you look at CorpCoin, which is one of the original digital corporation in our portfolio, one of their assets, very interesting on what they're doing with their ability to tokenize and replace the need for factoring or the need for commercial paper using that particular tokenization
Interesting. Let me go back to Thomas because I just want to get his perspective on something that you're talking about. But so if you're taking that, you can also obviously what we're saying is you can tokenize intangible assets like patents and trademarks and copyrights and carbon credits, et cetera. But Thomas, let's chat tokenization and contracts, which is really your specialty here. So you can also tokenize contract agreements themselves with liability NFTs and asset NFTs, which are created to show ownership of a given contract for the promiser, two-party who makes a promise and the promisee, so to speak. The party receives the benefits of a contract. For business and trade finance, this opens up a whole new world of possibilities for handling sensitive data. Is this really solving real-world issues here? And is mass adoption just around the corner, in your opinion?
Yeah, so a little bit to unpack there. I think regarding mass adoption, I think there another challenge that people look at that long alphanumeric hexadecimal address, for a blockchain address. And I think we're seeing the same thing that happened with the internet and IP. And I think you could make the correlation there. Like we had IP addresses, and until domain names came on top of that, everything took off. We don't want to go to 212.185.684. How do you market that? But when you could put a name over it, like $Bill or $Larry or $Mary or any of those, it's going to make it a lot easier. So that's another technology that we developed at Total Network Services, and that's going to help with adoption. And I think also security is a big thing. You mentioned the security layer, and that's critical. Again, going to Paul, we had the universal identifier, which is the UCID. And that's a very, we're very excited about that because essentially what we could do is we've taken the mobile equipment identifier that's on mobile devices and we've tokenized it. So there's a great example of an NFT where we have a 1-for-1 for that specific device. And by doing that now we could authenticate that device. So with the UCID, we're able to tokenize mobile equipment identifiers, and that could provide software and hardware bill of materials. So, and I think, there's a lot of fraud out there. And I think when you could apply tokenization, both NFTs and security tokens, you've got a winning combination. And I think, again, the security tokens in capital markets is going to reduce a tremendous amount of friction. It's going to make things a lot easier. I mean, think about it. You don't have to wait for settlement. Ultimately, when all this goes to mass adoption, you get real time. Who likes to wait for a paper certificate? What if you could get it instantly? So
Instantly.
There's going to be a lot of benefits. And I think, the future looks bright for this technology. And, we're excited to be working on both instances, both with DealBox and TNS.
All right, gentlemen, I'd love to get both your perspectives on this. So Thomas, we'll start with you first. If you're tokenizing something that you own just for yourself, then you only need to comply with local monetary transaction laws, paying any necessary taxes while transacting online, so to speak. Usually the tokenization platforms take care of taxing you. But in crowdfunding scenarios, you'll need to create solid legal documents per se. And that's especially crucial if you're transferring partial rights of patents, trademarks, or real estate, for instance. What are the advantages of regulated tokenization with real assets behind them?
Well, you're gonna remove a lot of friction in the whole entire process. You got tradability because now you could these digital assets, I think, could trade freely. Security tokens will follow digital assets. Security tokens will follow regulatory framework. So like Reg D type of offerings, Reg D 506 will allow you to generally solicitate those offerings. We're seeing, I think, everything is going digital. The World Bank just put out a report that they expect security tokens to have 162 trading and trading volume in 2030 and 4 trillion of assets being tokenized.
Wow.
And if you guys are familiar with the Depository Trust Corporation, DTCC, I encourage you to do a little bit research on there. They're talking, they're already moving towards this. So there's in terms of advantages, I just think, stock markets open and close, right? So when they're closed, what do? How are you trading these types of things? So I think, having the 24/7 ability to trade these, removing the friction in capital markets around all the things that take place, and having the digital security smart contract, a lot of those are going to be more efficient, effective ways to, everything's moving digital.
That makes total sense. Thank you, Thomas, for simplifying that for us. All right, Paul, in your perspective, what are the advantages of regulated tokenization with real assets behind them?
Generally speaking, from a market's point of view, anytime something can have an impact on liquidity and the provisioning of liquidity, if you get more efficient with liquidity provisioning, then that's going to be a good thing. So at the end of it, I think there's a lot that could be talked about on the advantages of tokenization. To Thomas's point about DTCC, that's a really good one to look at, right? Because at the end of the day, that digital trading platform where you can register all of you can file your 8K or your Form 10 with an 8K in it, and you can just put it up there. And then if you need a 144 letter or something, and that you want to get an equity onto your portfolio from broker to broker, it creates degrees of efficiency. That's what that did, right? There's other things that are going on. There are other things going on with the federal government right now, and some of the things they're planning on that really make a big difference. And I think it in itself is going to become a disruptor in some regard. I mean, if you think about the new real-time ACH, so ACH which is NACHA, it's called NACHA, ACH went from ACH to then instant ACH to now mid next year, real-time ACH. So that has from instant to real-time has a dramatic effect on payments technologies. But we look at all day long. We look at these things here on our portfolio because we have payment assets in our portfolio in the payment space, and you look at that and say, well, geez, you shouldn't just be coding and integrating like an IO or checkbook IO or a Plaid in to get boarded at linking your payments platform to your bank account and everything. Okay, that's fine, but who's winning the race to directly onto integrated with notches so you can do real-time ACH? When you do that, a lot of those kind of intermediary companies easily get disrupted. So you have to think about all the things that are going on. It's not just the exciting things in the press and cryptocurrencies and all of that. There's a regulatory framework that's going to have an impact on all of this going forward. And what I like about Thomas is he's kind of come from the Wakeboard Hall of Fame to the front cover of CEO magazine, and he understands all of this. Him and his team, they absolutely get it. So I just wanted to say that it's important to have like a 360 view of the whole thing.
Well said, my friend. Well, you've definitely simplified it for us. I want to thank you both for coming on and answering my questions. Definitely my experts at hand. Should I need any kind of information with respect to fintech, with respect to blockchain, NFTs, I'm coming to Thomas Carter and Paul Caldwell. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on.
Hey, thanks, everybody.
Good to be here.
The only thing holding back this industry is for more players to recognize what is happening and seize the opportunity while it is still early. That was our Innovation and Tech segment brought to us by Caldwell Soames and OG Pay. Definitely check out Thomas Carter at thomascarter.io and head to ogpay.com for all your trusted banking needs. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcoming back in our Innovation and Tech segment brought to us by Caldwell Soames and ogpay.com. We are featuring Thomas Carter, founder of Dealbox and interim CEO of Total Network Services, otherwise known as TNS, which is an ecosystem of apps and technologies enabling the new blockchain economy. You can check them out at totalnetworkservices.io. Thomas, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Hey, hi there, Zen.
So let's talk about trade finance. So trade finance also faces complex regulatory and supply chain procedures involving multiple moving parts and requires a great deal of trust. It's also a sector that remains highly susceptible to document fraud. Now, NFTs can remove those barriers, eliminate fraud, and reduce reliance on middlemen by tokenizing assets and documents into a single immutable digital token. Talk to me about linking digital rights management to security through NFT-based UCID, utilizing TNS's Universal Communication Identifier.
Yeah, so the Universal Communication Identifier is a great solution, I believe, for digital rights management amongst a lot of different things, because you're authenticating. If you could authenticate provenance and authenticate software and hardware, you're going to be in a good position to sort of understand when threats come in. You're going to be able to see sort of everything is being hashed. If nothing is being, if something comes into the network that doesn't have a hash, it's going to be detected. And I think, those types of capabilities provide, the solution that folks that want digital rights management and provenance and authenticity, and the Universal Communication Identifier does provide that.
Yes, I mean, what you guys are doing at Dealbox and at TNS is quite remarkable. You guys are at the forefront of this and definitely are going to be one of the pillars of the infrastructure that this industry is going to require, especially with blockchain and going into Web3. I just want to thank you so much for coming on. Thomas, always a pleasure chatting with you. I'd invite you to come back on anytime you want. Paul,
Sure.
You know how I feel about you, my friend.
Thank you.
That was our Innovation and Tech segment brought to us by Caldwell Soames and ogpay.com. That was Thomas Carter. Definitely check him out, thomascarter.io. And make sure you're also checking out Total Network Services. You can check them out at totalnetworkservices.io. And definitely make sure you're heading to ogpay.com for all your trusted banking needs. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Tempus, the next generation of the engagement economy, allowing people to make money on their data and earn cryptocurrency for the time they spend on things they already currently love to do. With Tempus, brands will have the ability to pay you directly for interacting with apps, watching videos, playing games, and more. Tempus, the time is now. Engage and earn.
If you've missed out dining in New York City for the past year, it's time to visit the legendary Vice Cucina. Located in the heart of Midtown, Vice specializes in blending delicious Northern Italian and American cuisine with dishes such as the incredible taglione lobster, ravioli masala, ossobuco, and pappardelle al telefono, along with many other mouthwatering offerings. You deserve a great night out. Call Vice Cucina 212-757-2600 or online at vicecucina.com.
Well, that's a wrap, my dear friends. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Or you can head to 710WOR.iHeart.com/A Moment of Zen. Remember to check us out on our YouTube channel at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, guys, not a Z. Thank you so much for listening to us. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. And remember, happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it.